This feels very official to the other podcasts done before. We've got headphones and microphones and
Morning, Jimbo.
lights and all sorts of stuff going on here. We're stepping our game up.
So this
you just broken it before we got started.
this £2 light. Very good, very professional.
It's been a while since we've done one of these. I know Westy and Ollie did one in, when would that have been? Which tournament did I not come to?
Miami?
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since we've done one.
There's a lot happened since then, to be honest. We've had 3 weeks off. We've had the world of golf's been tragically turned upside down last week. We've had caddies leaving. We've had it's all going on. How are we going to fit it all in?
Well, I think this is one of the unique things about like our team environment is that most other professional sports teams are in each other's pockets constantly for at least half the year and probably more in most instances. You know, as much as anything, it's actually good to have formalized time to sit and catch up because, you know, we are not together all the time, right? We do 14 weeks a year and then we one off and then we don't see each other for 2 weeks. We're in the middle of a 3-week off season at the moment. So it's actually going to be nice to chat through a bunch of stuff.
Well, there's a lot to get through in a short period of time. And like anything, we can always do 2.0, 3.0 and still probably not cover all the topics. But let's dive in and see how much we get done.
Exactly. All right, let's crack on. So I will apologise in advance for any foul language. Ian, unfortunately, does like to swear every now and then. But the idea of this conversation is that it's as honest and as candid as it would be if we were just sitting having a chat. So apologies in advance for any swearing or if we offend anybody. That's not the idea. We're truly just trying to give everybody a real behind the scenes look at what it is we talk about, what are the hot topics at this moment in time across the business. Probably moving on to something that's going to be a little bit more somber of a topic, which leads on from wanting to talk about what's going on in the wider world of golf right now. I think, unfortunately, and it kind of leads into a bit of a conversation around well-being, player welfare, things like that, is that unfortunately we've seen the really tragic, horrible news in the last week about Grayson Murray, unfortunately passing away and ultimately taking his own life as per the statement from his parents, which I'm sure we'll get onto, but I thought was an unbelievable statement. Their gesture to carry on the tournament during the week was, really, really special that they were able to do that. And, you know, Scotty Scheffler and what happened to him, obviously not directly comparable in any way, but a big mental issue to deal with and handle. I think it just raises this larger question around, and something we arguably haven't thought about enough as a team in any formal ways, just the mental well-being of our players. When you think about these things that are going on, I think you posted something this week about some comments that you were getting on social media. So I'm just interested to talk about, you know, you've been doing this a long time and would have gone through some great times and some difficult times. How have you kind of managed to deal with all of that stuff and the advent of social media and bits and pieces like that?
Yeah, first and foremost, this last week has been extremely sad, I think, for the sport to lose, Grayson Murray at such a young age to obviously some pretty bad mental health issues, which, we know he's had a few struggles, through the last 10 years, and alcoholism clearly was not easy for him. He was fighting those demons for a while and seemed to have been, and come through the worst of it, being successful, winning this year, really seemed to have kind of really turned the corner. And, we all, I guess, would have imagined he would be in a great frame of mind. And I think this highlights everything that's kind of wrong in certain sports and in the public eye, because as much as we look in from outside and think everything's okay and he looks happy and he's winning tournaments and he's saying the right things and explaining about his struggles and being open and honest, I guess there was some underlying issue there which unfortunately has reared its head and unfortunately taken someone too quick. So it's a very sad time, and I think it always gives us and asks us that question: why did it happen? How did it happen? What could we have done any different? Have we done a good enough job as a sport to try and stop anything like this happening? So there are always these questions that are going to get asked. And I know Grayson, I was I was texting him on social media, on Instagram after he won, because I knew what he'd been through and I knew what that would have meant to him, to be able to win, and be successful. But clearly to him, having that level of success and what seems to everybody on the outside that he was okay, he wasn't. So,
Yeah.
I feel sad. I feel sorry for the family. I feel sorry that, he's left people behind. And it's truly tragic. So
I think look, well said, mate. I think there's a few interesting. This is one of those topics that we could speak about for hours and hours. I think there's a few interesting kind of things that enter my head, or questions. Is what always amazes me is that, this young man, I think I can call him that, was obviously dealing with some really, really, really difficult stuff. And what staggers me is that on one hand, you'd kind of say like there's some mental struggles and there's some mental things kind of going on for him very, very clearly. But to have the mental fortitude and strength to win a golf tournament when that is going on in your life is like, that's what staggers me. If I try and play golf and I got something on my mind, I'm absolutely toast. So I think sometimes kind of realizing that even though it's mentally stressful, sometimes it can actually be an escape for people, right? Is that being on the golf course is, I think you've said to me before, actually, when I get on the golf course, even though that could arguably be the most stressful thing, that's actually the least stressful thing, because I'm inside the ropes, no one's bothering me, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, I've never really opened up personally. I've always found it difficult to talk to some people, so I get it. I truly get why people don't talk to people, because I don't want to make my problem their problem. Which at times has got too much. And at times, you feel everything's against you. And, it gets to certain points that I've had in my career where I just can't play. Everything's a bit too much. I need to hit a reset button. But I get it. It's about not, I think generally people don't want to have their problems put on somebody else. Right. Oh. And I think that's a bad situation to be in. Yeah. So I think you really have to have a good group of people around you, no matter what problems you have or I have or anyone has. I just think sometimes it's good to try and open the curtains and say, all right, what's going on? And as tough and bulletproof as people think you are, and I'm going to put myself in a bracket of I put out a pretty confident persona and that I'm quite tough, but I handle all the shit the same way everyone else handles the shit. I do take it personally. I don't like it. I struggle. Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. There was somebody this week that was not very nice, on a Facebook comment, which really pissed me off. It just blows my mind how we have come to accept that it's okay to abuse or put poor comments or say certain stuff to certain people that you wouldn't say to their face.
Yeah.
And, you know, leaving that level of comment on social media, I don't think people understand what damage that potentially can do.
Or what advice would you give to other people? What sort of coping mechanisms have you used over time that you would encourage people to use? And then what do you think as a sport we could do more of or do differently?
To say it doesn't bother me, it does bother me. Otherwise, I wouldn't react the way I react to it. I think, and it's as simple as this. In and around you, you'll only really have 10 friends, right? That you can really trust. Those 10 friends are probably the best people you could talk to about it, because they're the ones you're going to go out to dinner with. They're the ones you're going to go out on holiday with. They're the ones that you're really going to respect what they have to say to you, their opinion. They're the only ones that matter, and your family, right? So you've got a small core network of people. They are the only opinions you need to listen to. And quite frankly, whatever anyone else says, like, they don't matter to you. They literally don't matter. It's a comment. It's irrelevant. Yes, it's going to piss you off. Yes, it's going to upset you. Yes, you'll be offended.
I think all too often, again, it comes back to the phone piece, right? Like speaking to someone, right? Picking up the phone. Don't leave the voice note.
Yeah.
Don't send the text message.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone or even go meet for a beer. I think you can't beat a good old fashioned conversation to get some things off your chest. I mean, it sounds simple, but in the world that we live in, it's so easy for people to kind of do it through a piece of technology. You just can't replace a kind of
I read something the
conversation.
other day, and you know, actually asking if someone's okay. You know, are you okay? Is everything all right? Like, how can I help? Or let's go and catch up and have a beer, or let's go out for dinner. Like, physically seeing someone, talking to someone, and actually seeing how they are, I don't think happens enough. I think we just get too used to closed questions, short texts, and we never really, really, really know how people are.
I think it's really interesting to have the chat. Appreciate your honesty. I think that the advice you've given around seems overly simple sometimes, right? But speak to the people you trust, be open, get it off your chest, learn your coping mechanisms. But I think that's really good advice. I mean, just to close it up, I think huge sympathies to Grayson Murray and his family and in their kind of really difficult time, and hope they kind of manage to cope with that as best they can. And his legacy is that it enables less people to have to suffer some of those things. So switching gears, Ian, from that sort of very serious, challenging conversation, and thanks for all your honesty there. I did want to talk about your golf game, the season so far. We've got a natural break in the season at the moment. We've played 7 regular season events. We've had a 3 or 4 week kind of mini off season that gives us a chance to take a step back, have a look, see what's happened, which is always difficult to do during a season or in a week off or when we're specifically at tournaments. So with that being said, I'm just interested to hear how you would assess your season so far, how you've used this time over the last 2 or 3 weeks to look at what's been going on.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. We, I think, got off to a reasonable start, started to drive the ball very well. That was one of the key things we spoke about at the back end of last year, was to work on certain aspects of the game to give us more opportunities. If we could hit 2 more fairways around, that would be a very good position to be in. Ball striking, iron play was another aspect. We did a very good job in Las Vegas. Tee to green, statistics wise was very, very good. My driving went off the boil the last two or three events, which is really disappointing because that's one of the aspects of my game that I've prided myself on, has always given myself, decent opportunity, albeit it's not 330 yards down the fairway, it's 295. So I think the break has been a good break time for me. It's given me a bit of opportunity to dive into my swing a little bit more. This week has been, really in preparation for Houston, working on my swing lines to really be a little more solid. It doesn't feel great. I've got to be honest with you. It looks great on camera, but it doesn't feel great. So I think that's because I've made a couple of changes. Those changes I feel will improve all aspects of iron play, consistency with the driver. So it's now a position for me to just add the reps, the reps, feel comfortable, be even more diligent every single day I'm hitting balls, videoing more. Video technology today is right there at your fingertips, and to be honest, sometimes you don't use it enough. So I think for me, it's been a little bit more diligent with that to stay on track. Sometimes you can be playing great, you don't feel you need to video it, but things can move from one week to the next, just because you feel you're playing well.
Yeah, and I think what's encouraging for me here is that we've invested in trying to make sure as a team we're providing our players the information that hopefully is helpful to improve. I think the first thing is that what you've picked up on is exactly what the numbers show. Kind of taking it in order. We're going to get the ball in play, right, before we can do anything from there. And that was one of the things that probably hurt last year, and definitely coming out into this season. I've got this kind of stats in front of me here, and you've hit 297 drives so far this year, averaging 60% of the fairways through Singapore, which is 5% better than the field average. But you can really see in the last couple of tournaments that's dropped off. The last two tournaments in Adelaide, Singapore, you were below the field average. So like a really strong start to the year off the tee definitely supported things. I think getting kind of back on track, it was obviously good. And I think this is what interests as well, and this is what's always interesting around the stats, is that look, our team and individual results haven't been great, but we're dealing with quite fine margins here that can make a big difference. So I think getting that back on track is obviously a big part of going out to the second half of the season. I think as you touch on there, if you kind of then go from right, okay, that's off the tee, let's hit some more fairways. The weeks where you have put it in play, and we can see this from the data. And some people may be surprised to hear this, is that in Las Vegas and Hong Kong in particular, you were third in the field and fourth in the field in overall ball striking. So on the face of it, you can take a quick look and say it's way off, and in some ways it is, but the margins are so fine. You've in some very, 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 very strong fields that we now have in Liv Golf. You've really hit the ball great at times through this year so far.
Yeah, I definitely have, because the stats say it, right? I know that we weekly, monthly, take that dive into the stats to have a look at those areas to see how we're doing. It's a kind of red, amber, green traffic light system, which instantly highlights areas of gains and areas of concern. So we're able to now dive into the actual physical yardages as increments, which is also good. It tells us the number of attempts that we have from those distances as well. So rather than just, you may only have one number where you've hit a shot from 220 to 240, for instance. You might have only hit one attempt, and you hit a poor one, so that number is going to be pretty red. So
I think the thing that I love as well, mate, sorry to cut you off, but I think look, we've had this conversation a number of times. You know, hitting it 320 yards definitely doesn't hurt, right? I completely get that, but
Yeah.
ultimately, what we've seen is playing your game. And I think this goes out to everybody out there that plays golf, is that hitting it further always helps. But you know, ultimately, hitting that number of fairways, still the most shots you've had this year have been from the distance increment 125 to 150 yards. You know, you've had 86 attempts from that distance, which is more attempts from that distance than any other, even though, you know, you are not one of the longest players on that tour. You know, you're slightly below average on distance. So I still think it's kind of, you know, getting comfortable. And it's difficult when you're out there week in, week out. Is there's a lot of boys hitting it a long way, which is clearly an advantage, especially if you're hitting it relatively straight. But there still is a way to get it done, because
yeah, but that's
no
always
reason.
been the case. It's always been the case since I've started playing golf. You know, I've never been the longest. I've always been average or just above average. My ball speed today is quicker today than it used to be in 2010. And I'm 14 years older. So the only issue today is there are guys that have incrementally made larger gains than the gains that I've made in that 14-year period. I've made a gain of about 3 mile an hour club head speed, but the average or top end of the game of golf, as a rule, have incrementally gained more than what I've gained. So, you know, I've always been on the deficit side of that, but I've still won tournaments against the longest players that in the world.
Absolutely.
So
I hope you don't mind me kind of going here, but I think one of the things you mentioned to me the other day, like when you look at those results and look at Hong Kong and Las Vegas as two really good examples, you know, they are shorter golf courses, you know, and I think you mentioned to me there, you know, what's quite funny is that you almost mentioned to me, it's easier because I'm swinging within myself. I'm knocking it down the fairway. Like, I think this is interesting for like people to know at home as well. Like, would you say you've ever got sucked into around certain golf courses trying to play a game that's not your game? Yeah,
always. I mean, look what it did to Rory when Bryson beefed up, and it sent Rory in the gym to attempt to try and hit it harder and harder and harder, right? And you know, he's completely backed off of that. Bryson's backed off of it. He realizes that wasn't a game that he needed. He already hits the ball long enough. But what he needs to do is actually put the ball in the fairway. And I played with him the back end of last year, and I have to say it's one of the most clinical, most impressive driving the golf ball I've ever seen. You know, I can't remember the average, but I think he averaged 330 yards off the tee that day. And I think he'd hit something like 12 or 14 fairways. Like it was really impressive. And you know, accuracy will always be the number one factor. Yes, hitting it long is definitely a plus. But look, if you hit it pretty straight and the rest of your game is pretty tight, and you're holding putts, you will be a factor in every golf tournament you play.
How much does it come into your mind where you're like, when you're in a warm up, right? Kind of, because I would say some of the best rounds I've seen you play is probably when I've seen you struggle most from a warm up perspective.
Hit it like shit on the range.
Because like, how much is it kind of in your mind that like, listen, actually I'm on the range, I'm feeling good. So when I go out, actually, when there's those longer holes, I feel like I can have a go at them. And then today, do you know what? I just haven't got it. So I'm just going to have to play this slightly differently. Like, how much does that factor into kind of what you're doing on a day in, day out, week in, week out basis? Playing with what you have?
In an ideal scenario, I'd love to flush it on the range all the time. Before the round, after the round, in warm-ups, in practice routines. But for me, that 45 minutes of hitting balls before my round of golf are pretty irrelevant. I've learned to treat them as irrelevant because I've had, as you've seen, I've had times where I've warmed up and I am shit. Like I could be a 12 handicap warm-up guy, right? It's
Bit harsh, but
all
I
right.
know what you say.
Eight handicap, right? I'm on the range. I mean, it's not even close. So, for me, that is something that I've learned to switch off from, because all I'm really doing is warming my body up. And there's always a time to flick the button, to turn around and go, it's game time. Game time is so very different to warm up time. It's hard to recreate the intensity that you have when you tee off as what that is from a warm up. So that's the reason why it's called the driving range, and that's the reason why it's a warm up. You are literally just warming up your muscles to go. So yes, I would rather hit the ball absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's worked against me.
So if I was to kind of, because ultimately look at the numbers, listen to what you just said, my categorization of it would be the start of the season off the tee was really, really strong. It's tailed off a little bit. You're focusing on that. I think from an overall different areas of the game perspective, there's been some really strong weeks, and unfortunately haven't, like in Vegas, top 3 ball striking, and uncharacteristically your short game was off. So I'm sure we'll get some naysayers and critics here that are saying, oh, it's way off. But actually there's been a lot of stuff that's been good throughout the years, good throughout the weeks so far this year. A big part for me is like marrying them all up at the same time each week, which I guess is always the trick, right? Is that they've been different areas of the game have been in good shape at different weeks during this year, and marry them up. So if I was to push you with bearing that in mind and what we just talked about, what would be the kind of 1 or 2 things that you'll be trying to focus on as we enter Houston in the next few weeks to try and marry those parts and pieces together?
Yeah, look, driving the golf ball. I have to get back to at least my normal stats off the tee, if not better. We were better at the start of the year. My short game was pretty tidy at the start of the year too. That's another aspect that we need to have at all times. And my short game normally is pretty good. It's one of the strongest parts of my game. Conversions of putts from 15 feet and in is the other aspect. So, for me, it's about having the dedicated practice time to work on all aspects of the game. And the other thing is, like, I'm 48 years old, and the body doesn't quite recover quite as quick as a 24-year-old. So again, my time when I'm on the range has got to be fully focused in what it is I need to achieve. And I think that for me, for the second half of the season is probably the most important thing that I have to do. Really precision practice, really dedicated focus practice, understanding the stat areas of the game that we need to look at, to be able to bring ourselves back to the level that we need, and also, as you say, marrying them all up together.
Yeah.
And I haven't married them together, and that's what's been, for me that's just disappointing, that I haven't really fully matched all of that together, which I used to do a lot more often. We know, me and you know, because we see all the numbers week in, week out, that there are still gains being made, and we are still able to produce a lot of really good golf. The magic answer is that let's marry it all together. So, I need to do whatever I need to do to be able to pull that off, because team performances need to improve. My performances need to improve. But I think the nice thing is to know from the numbers, because it's easy to be hard on yourself and get down on yourself that you haven't and aren't doing what you should be doing, that it's all there in black and white. So
I think the other cool thing for me with golf and the format that we play in is that, if you're a football team, for example, and you've lost 8 out of 10 games, it's very difficult to make a gain, right? It's very difficult to move your position in the league. I think the way that we play, or the sport that you play, that, we're involved in, every week's a new week. And to go win a golf tournament, suddenly the world can change very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's
Yeah.
the really cool thing that's always to look forward to, and that we've got to look forward to for the remainder of the remainder of the season. I'm really keen to talk about Liv UK. We're
Yes.
going to talk about a few of the things we're going to be doing during that week of Liv UK, because it is effectively our home event, right? Which is one of the really cool things for me that's manifested with Liv that we may not have known at the beginning, is that, you know, with 3 British and 4 European players, this is one of the 2 events hosted in Europe. It's a really cool chance for us to kind of, you know, do something a bit extra special during what has kind of become our home event, which I assume you're looking forward to, mate.
Yeah, look, it's the first time I've ever been to JCB. I'm not sure exactly when the golf course was built. I know it's pretty new.
I learned this morning it opened in 2017, so it's pretty
Okay.
new.
Yeah, very new. 7 years old. I think, you know, just from a quick glance of what it is they've been able to create, you know, a very small tight membership. I think it's 80 members. This place was developed obviously for, you know, JCB's biggest clients and guests to come and play golf. So it's a pretty special, unique facility here. The cabins on site, as you drive up the driveway on the right hand side, look phenomenal. Practice facilities look pretty good, and as you say, like it's kind of got everything. So I'm excited to go out on the course, have a look round, and I'm excited to, you know, play another UK event. Just like we did the first couple of years, obviously playing down at Centurion, having home support from, you know, a great set of fans that love watching golf. You know, I'm pretty proud to be able to be part of, you know, not just Team Majesticks, but Liv Golf and the overall bigger picture of what that means with the amount of quality golfers that we have coming to this part of the world, to showcase, you know, team golf and an individual golf. And as you say, it is pretty much a home event for us. And, you know, the cool stuff that we can do personally from a Team Majesticks side of things, with having an area to entertain our guests, our sponsors, and kind of, you know, roll out the red carpet, as we will say, to those people that support us properly. And, you know, I think we did a great job last time. I think we've learned from all of that last time, and hopefully we can give an even better experience this time round with our, you know, our tea party experience that we did before.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as you say, look, I'm English, love golf, grew up here, and there's been some great tournaments in the UK, particularly, you know, the BMW PGA at Wentworth has always been an amazing event that I always remembered going to growing up. It's a fantastic event. But I think arguably, as a kind of person that grew up and still lives in England, is that there probably isn't enough of that. And I think to bring another amazing event to the UK with the field that we have now, and also in an area where, you know, Uttoxeter, we're very much in the Midlands. I think within a 45-minute drive time, we've got Nottingham, Manchester, Leicester, Birmingham. So hopefully from a catchment point of view, there's a really good opportunity to serve a group of fans that may not be served that much. I think it's, as you say, it's cool to develop on the ideas that we delivered last year, whether it's what we're doing from a hospitality perspective, and our building is literally going to be just out here to the right hand side. We're going to have some cool stuff going on with giving people access to the range and range experiences, and some meet and greets for you guys, which is going to be cool for our sponsors and partners. And also we're going to be running some competitions for our Majesticks GC members, who are going to get the chance to come and experience that as well as what we're working really hard to do is, you know, we're really fortunate to already have, you know, upwards of 10,000 members of our golf club, which is actually, when you say it out loud, is a pretty cool thing. And we're working really hard to make sure that we deliver some stuff to reward those members and make sure that, you know, we appreciate those members that have supported us so far. So we're also working on some cool stuff during the week in the fan village, you know, whether it be express queue when you're entering, so you get kind of the fast pass, if you will, through, and some some incentives for members, some unique areas and viewing areas for them to have access to. So really excited about delivering those things and hopefully seeing lots of people out here. You know, we've got a great partnership with Destination Sport and the Destination Sport group that have got some kind of cool packages available. So you can obviously buy tickets from Liv, but we've created some unique packages with Destination Sport for sale to the general public that include some merchandise, some signed stuff, some potential opportunities for further access. So, and that's what's cool for me as someone that's, you know, worked in this industry and been fortunate to represent, you know, yourself and Lee and Henrik and Sam before Liv came along is, you know, previously it would have been very difficult to have an influence over what the tournament did, right? And
well, you could never do it. And that's the differential thing between Liv as a product, and the wonderful thing that we have with being a co-captain and a part owner in a franchise. You know, if you know the previous great events that have happened in the UK, with it being BMW, Wentworth, and the British Masters, what we are able to give from a product perspective and what we're able to create from a fan perspective and the cool stuff that we can do for the fans is something which just couldn't be done before and isn't being done until now. So, you know, to own your own fan base from a franchise perspective, to be able to give them opportunity to win certain meet and greets, Q&As, prizes. It's just different, right? So, but we've been in this game long enough. We've been in this game 25 years. We've seen what the opportunities are within the game of golf. We've done corporate event on corporate event on corporate event at hundreds of events around the world. This is different. Like it gives us the ability to get a little bit more creative, which is exciting. It gives us the ability to actually entertain our sponsors at a venue like we've never been able to in the past.
Yeah, and I think that you hit the key word for me, like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think the attractive thing about the proposition as well, that it was different. And I think now the cool thing is that we've got enough evidence to show and enough data points to show that we are serving a different audience and exposing a different audience to the game. And I think that's what's really cool about this event is that, look, the BMW PGA Championship, as an example, I went with, I think is an unbelievable event. I went to it for many, many years with you.
So did I.
It's amazing. I love it. I'm not saying that I don't have any criticism of that tournament at all. This again brings a great feel, but hopefully, you know, a slightly different vibe. And you see more families, you're seeing more general sports fans, and hopefully that's overall additive to the game. So look, I'm really looking forward to the tournament and, you know, seeing what JCB Golf and Country Club kind of delivers for us as a venue and what we can deliver to help support a great event. It's going to be pretty cool. All we've got to worry about now is the weather, because as I look outside, it's just started raining, and I'm hearing all these news reports around the
forecast. The forecast was amazing for June.
Good.
It's going to be the wettest June in 100 years. So I'm glad the event's in July.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there's anybody that's listening or watching or sees this that wants to learn a bit more about what we're doing, send us a question on Instagram at MajesticksGC or log on to MajesticksGC.com, sign up to be a member. Because look, ultimately we want to hear from people. We've got some cool ideas of what we think members want based on some research that's done, but always want to be able to hear from people of what we can do differently, do better. So
we're adaptive. We can give the fans whatever they want.
Well, I don't know about that, but we can at least
try.
We can at least listen to the questions.
We can try.
So I think to round things off, I think the last thing that I wanted to touch on and talk about on that very note of kind of, you know, fans and interaction, all that kind of cool stuff, which is again what this kind of content is designed to do, is that we went to the fans and we got a few questions. So wanted to fire a few questions at you from some fans that have been kind enough to send a few in to us. So the first one is, when you first started playing golf, did you ever believe that you were good enough?
Um, I didn't ever know I wasn't good enough, is more to the point. So I think naivety in a way of just turning around saying I'm going to be a great player. I'm going to go and win golf tournaments. And I'm going to find a way to do it. I think that's probably been one of the good things that's allowed me to believe in myself. Like, I am in control of my golf ball at all times. That ball's not moving. The only factors that we are challenged with are weather conditions on the golf course, and the rest of it's down to me. So providing I put in enough practice, providing I believe in my own swing, and providing I continue to work hard, I will always be able to be good enough.
Love
And
that. Love that answer.
that is, I think, a lesson for all kids.
Yeah.
Don't ever listen to somebody that tells you you can't do something, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Love that answer. And thanks AMC Chauffeur Services for that question. Next question. This is from Chili Lee 36 is, what would you say is the best drill for a 6-year-old beginner? Struggles with takeaway, and top of swing being very shut. It's quite a specific question.
That's very specific, and that is very swing orientated. So first and foremost, if you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is go to your local club pro. And the best thing you can do is work with your pro to highlight, and you've already highlighted a couple of issues in your swing that you know of. So it's finding the best way and somebody that you relate to. So rather than me give you the perfect way to fix that problem, me just giving you one way might not be the right way. So I would say consult, find somebody that you understand, and work with them from a takeaway perspective. There's a million clips on YouTube, and there's lessons that you can have a look on YouTube as well, of things that you can do to help, from a takeaway perspective and from a wrist position at the top of the backswing. So it may be your grip. It might not be just a position that you're in that makes that club shut. So I don't want to give you a drill that's going to send you down the wrong path, but try and get some time with your local club pro, who could definitely help there.
And I'm sure not many people are interested in my opinion on this, but the other thing I would say, having got, young kids that I'm trying to get into the game of golf at the moment, I've actually got a 6-year-old as well, is that there's some great products out there now. Try and get some golf clubs that are light enough. I think that's one of the big things, that junior golf clubs historically have been really, really heavy, and that's really difficult. But my youngest Mila, she's 6 as well, and we've just got her some golf clubs, and they weren't ridiculously expensive, and actually having something that's got the kind of right weight ratio has been really helpful too. So I'd look at that as well. What I'm going to ask this question because I also know the answer to it, and it goes with quite a funny story. So from Theo Harris Golf, have you ever played with Sevi? And if you have, what was it like?
Yes, I have played with Sevi several times. Excuse me. And it was mind blowing, to be honest. Sevi was someone that was an idol of mine, somebody I looked up to, somebody I took inspiration from. I played with Sevi in his last Open Championship. And if I put myself in the positions that Sevi put himself in, I would have shot 95. But he didn't, because he is an absolute genius. He is and was one of the most incredible workers of a golf ball and imaginative people I've ever seen with a golf club in his hand. So for me, it was an honor. It was pretty special, and something that I can obviously tell my kids and their kids when they grow up, that I had the lucky opportunity to play with him several times.
Very cool. Couple more here. So this is from Dom Piggott. What is the one go-to shot you find easiest to control when needing to hit a fairway?
For me, it's just a 10-yard cut. It's very easy, I think, for me as a right-handed golfer to aim down the left-hand side, and make a pass at the ball that is generally very slightly just across the line. My swing type allows me to get that club working in front, so therefore I can obviously hold the face open slightly. So for me, a 10-yard cut to peel it into play is always something that I will lean towards if I'm in that position where I have to hit this fairway. So 10-yard cut, aim down the left-hand side, hold the club face, from shutting down all the way down, and just hit that peely cut.
Cool. And then this is a really interesting one because there are some things going on with the rules in golf at the moment, it's particularly around the golf ball. And there's a question here from P. Thuvel. I hope I haven't butchered that name. If there is one thing you could change in the golf rules, what would it be?
I'm not sure if it's just one thing, but look, common sense. That rule book is way too deep. I think they have made some good changes. We've gone from dropping a ball over the back of your shoulder in time all the way to now, being down at knee height, right? So I think the game is trying to become more simple. That rule book is trying to help us out. So I don't think it's one rule. I think there's a number of rules that even I still today, after playing golf for 25 years professionally, that I know that rule book inside out. That's why, we at tournaments have to have so many officials to help us out. Not that we should play off two sets of rules, but I think for recreational golf, I think there should be a way when someone hits it out of bounds or there's a lost ball where, going back to the tee seems quite punishing for just recreational golf. And I think there should be some common sense in there to keep flow going and keep pace of play friendly enough where everyone enjoys a game of golf and doesn't have to put up with 6 hours on a golf course.
And I think that's the one thing I would say, that the powers that be in golf, I would say in the last kind of few years, that they have made some good positive changes to make the game a bit faster, a bit more accessible. You think about dropping it from knee high, or being able to leave the pin in at your will if you want to knock a putt in and not mess around with that. And 3 minutes to look for your ball. All of that stuff's been really additive.
Things change, right? Things evolve. We try and make things better generally. And I think we're always trying to evolve to make this great game a bit better.
And then we might have to do a separate podcast on this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. This one is from, I'm going to say Baz Lammers 79. What are your plans after golf?
We don't have enough time to talk about that because, as you keep telling me, slow down, will you? You've got too much on the go as it is, rather than doing the 150 things you'd like to do. So look, there's a lot for me after golf. I'm really enjoying being, a franchise owner. That for me is really exciting. I don't think we ever emphasize enough at the minute what that really means to the people in the outside world about having a part ownership in a franchise. When you look at celebrities or influential people in business today, they're all getting involved with team sports. Look at the amount of people, LeBron James having a part ownership in Liverpool. Look at the people that are now investing into Formula One teams. Look at the people that are invested into Wrexham and these other clubs. So, this is a business interest that we have with inside Liv Golf. That I'm not just playing golf on Liv. I'm trying to grow a franchise. So that in itself is going to take up some time. When I'm playing a little bit less golf, hopefully we can make it a very successful one. So it keeps me really busy. But there are other plans. Opening a card store. A card store probably in America is definitely on the cards. Talking more shit on probably a microphone is probably on the cards.
A card store on the cards. That is actually.
There you go. We're going to open a card store. It's definitely on the cards. Look, there's lots. I don't really know. I'd like to help Luke in his endeavors to be a great golf pro. So being a father figure to him, to give him hopefully a leap forward as soon as possible, and be that support system for the rest of my kids, and see if Joshy wants to play golf. And that there's a lot for me to do, but there's not a lot of time. So we're going to have to be, as you keep telling me, focused.
Yeah, listen, one thing I do know is you're not going to be short of things to do when that time comes after golf, but you got a lot of golf ahead of you the next couple of years for sure, at the very least. So listen, mate, thanks for that. I'm sure we've already way run over time. So good to chat, good to update on those few things and discuss a few questions. Thanks to everybody that will listen along.
I didn't just dive into that little chocolate bar that Gussie left for me. Was that your chocolate bar or mine?
These pro athletes, just before they're about to go and hit balls, they always have a dairy milk caramel.
That's all right. Listen, I know the edit team, they're going to cut that out. So right. I didn't just have a little nub of chocolate, but
I'm going. Get on the range.
Come on, let's go. See you, mate.